This happened a few months ago. I was 21 and busy with my sociology classes. I spent a lot of my time studying in the library, which was also where I worked part-time. Most days felt normal. But then everything changed. One late afternoon, I left the library after closing. It was quiet, maybe too quiet. I noticed a guy standing by the exit. He wasn't doing anything, just looking at me. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone or maybe lost. I felt a weird shiver, but I brushed it off. Perhaps he was just another student. Weeks passed, and I kept seeing him. The next day, he was in the quad, standing under a tree as I walked to class. I thought it was just a coincidence. But then it happened again. I walked to the dining hall, and there he was. My heart raced. It felt like a movie. He didn't always look exactly the same, but the feeling was always there. It was like he was waiting for something. I told myself it was all in my head. Maybe I was just imagining things. Or perhaps he was someone from a class I didn't know well. Then one day, I found something in my backpack. At first, I thought it was just a scrap of paper. I opened it, and there was a note. It said, "I'm always watching." My stomach dropped. I felt cold, standing there in the library surrounded by students, unsure of what to do. I laughed it off, thinking it was some prank. But then, I found more notes. They kept slipping into my bag when I wasn't looking. Each one sent chills through me, making my anxiety worse. That I tried to ignore everything. I mentioned it to my friends, and they laughed. "Just someone trying to get your attention," they joked. But I always thought about that figure lurking in the background of my life. What did he want? He never approached me directly. I felt drawn into something I didn't want. Then, one evening after a long day of classes, I spotted him again. He stood at the library entrance. I took a sharp breath, trying to hold myself together. This time, I decided I would confront him. I stepped closer, my hands shaking. I opened my mouth to say something. But before I could speak, he tilted his head. "Alex?" he asked. That I froze. How did he know my name? My heart raced. I turned my head quickly, searching for anyone else around, but I was alone. He looked at me and asked, "Why are you always running away?" I turned around, glancing back behind me. Nobody was there. Just empty hallways and fading daylight. That I stumbled back, feeling the walls closing in. I couldn't shake that feeling of unease. The air felt thick around me, and I remembered how his eyes stayed locked on mine, seeing and knowing too much. Even now, I think about what might have happened if I hadn't walked away. Maybe I was always going to run from him. The following week, I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept replaying that moment in the library. Who was he? Why did he know my name? I avoided the library after hours, choosing to study in crowded cafes instead. The noise helped drown out my thoughts, but the unease clung to me like a shadow. On Tuesday, I had a late class that let out around 9. I walked back to my dorm, clutching my backpack tightly, every sound making me jump. I could almost feel his gaze on me, even though he hadn't shown up again since that night. I took a deep breath, trying to shake the thoughts, but it was impossible. As I rounded the last corner before my dorm, I saw someone standing by a lamppost. My heart leaped into my throat. It was him. This time, he wore a dark hoodie, pulling the fabric low over his eyes. I stopped in my tracks. Should I turn around? I was paralyzed, caught in a moment that stretched forever. Then, as if sensing me, he shifted slightly. I held my breath. Would he approach me? What would I do? Instead, he turned and walked away. Relief coursed through me, but it was short-lived. I didn't want to follow him, but I had to know. I moved quietly, keeping my distance. He led me toward a wooded area behind the dorms. The trees loomed like sentinels in the moonlight. When I reached the edge, I paused. That S when I saw it. There were scattered notes pinned to the trees. I crept closer, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. My hands trembled as I grabbed one. It was another note, just like the ones I found in my bag. This one read, "You shouldn't have run." Every instinct screamed for me to go back, but I couldn't. I picked up another note. Each one felt like a piece of my unraveling sanity. They were addressed to me, filled with strange riddles about being watched and trapped. I wondered how long he had been doing this. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned quickly, ready to confront him. But it was only a small group of students laughing as they walked by. I felt foolish. These notes couldn't mean anything. Maybe this was just a prank gone too far. I took a breath and started walking back to the dorm. The air felt electric. As I neared my building, I threw the notes into the nearest trash can, hoping they'd disappear with my fear. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I jumped at every noise, every creaking floorboard. I wrapped myself in a blanket, trying to find comfort, but sleep eluded me. Then came a knock on my window. My breath caught in my throat. I slowly turned to see him standing there, just outside my window, silhouetted against the night. "Alex," he whispered, and my heart dropped. I was trapped. I stared at him, frozen in disbelief. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body wouldn't cooperate. His dark eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, it felt like the world around us faded away. "Why are you here?" I managed to whisper, my voice wavering. I felt vulnerable, exposed under his gaze. "Because I've been looking for you," he said. There was an edge to his voice, almost urgent. "We need to talk." "About what?" I felt adrenaline coursing through me. "You're scaring me." He took a step back, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "I didn't mean to frighten you. It's not what you think. You need to understand." I shivered, not just from his words, but from the chill creeping through the room. The window frame felt like a barrier between us, preserving a thin layer of safety. "Understand what?" "That you've been watching me?" He sighed, frustration crossing his features. "It's complicated. Just please listen to me. There's more going on than you realize." I wanted to slam the window shut, but curiosity held me at bay. "What do you mean?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "There are people, dangerous people who are after you. I don't have time to explain everything now, but I can help you." "Help me?" I scoffed, incredulous. "By stalking me? By showing up outside my window?" He stepped back, frustration morphing to urgency. "You don't have time to question me. You need to trust me, Alex. They've been following you, watching, waiting." I glanced back at my room, heart racing. It felt like a trap, his words wrapping around me like chains. I had to get away, but his intense gaze held me captive. "You're lying." "Why should I believe you?" "Because you've already noticed someone, haven't you?" His eyes darkened. "You found the notes, didn't you?" "How do you know about the notes?" Panic squeezed my chest. "I'm trying to protect you. Those are not just pranks. You're being targeted because of something that happened before you even got here." My mind reeled at his words. "What are you talking about?" Before he could answer, I heard the faintest sound, branches snapping outside my window. My heart sank as I felt a wave of dread wash over me. "What was that?" His expression shifted from urgency to fear. "You need to get out of here. Now." Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed through the night. Something had fallen nearby, something heavy. My pulse raced, and I instinctively backed away from the window. "Alex. Go." He stepped aside, creating a path for me to escape. "I'll handle this." I glanced back at him, torn between my instincts and his words. Finally, I darted toward the door and flung it open. The hallway was dark and silent, but I heard a voice deep, low, and menacing coming from the direction of the window. "Where is she?" Every nerve in my body screamed at me to run, and I didn't hesitate. I dashed down the hall. I had to get away before it was too late. I sprinted down the hallway, my heart racing faster than I thought possible. The darkness around me felt heavy with unseen eyes, and I pushed open the door to the stairwell, gasping for air. The sharp smell of metal and acrid dust filled my nostrils. I turned to look behind me, half expecting to see him coming after me, but there was only silence, punctuated by the soft thuds of my footsteps against the concrete steps that I reached the bottom and hesitated at the door leading to the outside. My instincts screamed at me to stay hidden, but I had to get out of that building. I flung the door open and stepped into the cool night air. The campus stretched before me, illuminated by the glow of streetlights. It felt eerily calm, too calm for what was happening in my mind. As I fumbled for my phone, a shadow moved in the corner of my eye. I swung around, but it was just a tree swaying in the wind. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the panic. I needed a plan. Maybe I could run to the security office. Maybe they could help, or at least they would listen. The path leading to the security office was well lit and familiar. I quickened my pace, darting between shadows cast by the flickering lights. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound behind me. I turned again, my heart pounding. Nothing. Just the hustle of leaves and a faint breeze. I was being paranoid. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. Reaching the office, I pushed the door open. The dim light inside was a comfort, but my relief was short-lived. The officer seated behind the desk looked up, a bored expression on his face. "Can I help you?" Someone is after me." I stammered, the urgency of my situation crystallizing in my voice. "I need help." He raised an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. "What do you mean? You're safe here, right?" I took a deep breath, trying to sort through the events of the night. "No, you don't understand. They've been watching me. I don't know who they are, but I think they're dangerous." "Have you seen anyone?" he asked, his manner still casual. Maybe it was just a prank. College kids can get restless. "No." I snapped, frustration bubbling over. "I've seen notes, things written about me. And a guy was just outside my window." The officer finally perked up. "Maybe we should get the cameras checked, see if anyone was around your building." "Please." I pleaded, desperation creeping into my tone. "I need to know if someone has been watching me." He nodded and started typing at his computer. While he scrolled through the footage, I paced the small office. I couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped. The walls felt like they were closing in. Then, I caught something out of the corner of my eye, movement outside the window. I stopped, holding my breath. "Wait," I said, pointing. "Look." But just as the officer turned, the shadow disappeared. Was it my imagination again? The officer returned to his screen, seemingly unconcerned. "Nothing there," he said casually. "No. Someone was there." I could feel the worry creeping back in, hardening into ice in my veins. "I swear I saw someone." Then a chilling thought crossed my mind. What if I wasn't imagining any of this? What if whatever was after me was closer than I thought? The officer shrugged, dismissing my fear. But in that moment, I realized, I had to take matters into my own hands. I turned to leave, and just as I did, I caught a glimpse of a familiar dark figure standing at the edge of the building, watching. My breath caught in my throat. "Alex!" Someone called from behind me. I spun around, my heart in my throat once again. "Alex! Wait!" The voice was familiar, but it felt like a lifetime ago since I had heard it. I turned to see Mia, my best friend, rushing toward me with a look of concern etched on her face. "What is going on?" she asked, her eyes darting to the door I'd just exited. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I can't explain right now," I stammered, glancing back toward the dark figure that had been watching me. But he was gone. Mia frowned, her brows knitting together. "You're shaking. Did something happen in there?" I hesitated. I didn't want to frighten her, but I had to share at least some of what was happening. "I think someone is watching me. I saw someone outside my window earlier, and hey, it's okay." Mia stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on my arm. "Have you talked to the police? Did they help?" I shook my head. "Not really. The officer didn't take me seriously." She bit her lip, uncertainty flashing across her face. "Well, what do you want to do?" Before I could respond, a chill spread through the air, and I felt it again, the sensation of being watched. "I don't know, Mia. I just want to be safe. Can we go to your dorm?" "Of course." She squeezed my arm and started walking, her eyes scanning the area as if she, too, could sense the danger lurking in the edges of the night. As we hurried down the path, I kept looking back, expecting to see that shadow creeping behind us. Mia chattered about our plans for the week, trying to distract me, but her voice was an echo in my mind. I couldn't focus on her words. When we reached her building, I took a deep breath, grateful for the warm glow of the entrance lights. But relief was short-lived. As we walked through the lobby, a figure caught my eye. A tall guy sat slouched on a couch, his hoodie pulled low over his face. I knew instantly it was him, the figure I had seen outside. My pulse raced. "Do you see that guy?" I whispered to Mia, my voice trembling. "Yes, the one I saw." Mia turned to look but only saw an empty space. "Who?" "I don't see anyone." I shook my head, swallowing hard. "He was just right there. I swear it." "Maybe it's just someone waiting for a friend?" she suggested, but there was a note of concern in her voice. "No. He was watching me, I can feel it." I could feel panic rising, clawing at my insides. I had to get out of here. "Let us go upstairs, now." We took the stairs two at a time, rushing to her room, and once inside, I locked the door. Safe, for the moment. But the relief didn't last. I felt the weight of unseen eyes pressing against the thin walls, and my thoughts spiraled back to the surveillance. Why was he interested in me? I suddenly remembered the notes, all those cryptic messages that had filled my mind with confusion and fear, that when Mia's phone buzzed. She picked it up, her brows furrowing again. "It's from Jess. She says she heard something outside too. She thinks someone is following her." Panic coursed through me. No, it can't be a coincidence. We need to warn her. But then everything went dark. The lights flickered, then sputtered out, enveloping us in shadow. "Alex?" Mia whispered, a tremor in her voice. I pressed my back against the wall, heart racing. "Mia. Stay close. We need to find a way out." Then I heard it. A soft sound on the other side of the door, a muffled voice whispering. "Let me in, Alex. I'm not the enemy." My breath caught again, but it didn't belong to Mia. I froze. The voice was low and familiar, but I couldn't place it. My heart hammered in my chest, drowning out the sound of Mia's shaky breathing beside me. "Who is it?" she asked, whispering as if speaking louder would cause the figure to burst through the door. "I don't know," I replied. "But we can't open it. We don't know what he wants." The voice spoke again, and this time it was clearer. "You need to trust me, Alex. I can help you. They're still watching." I shot a glance at Mia, and her eyes were wide with fear. "Who is it? What do they want? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know. I hissed. But it can't be good. It sounds like he knows about everything. A heavy silence fell between us. It was thick, almost suffocating. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. The soft patter of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Someone was moving, but I couldn't see who. My mind raced. This was not just about me anymore. Jess was out there too. Should we try to call for help? Mia suggested, her voice trembling. No. I grabbed her arm before she could reach for her phone. If he's outside, he'll hear us. Then, the door rattled. I felt a surge of horror. What are you doing? I whispered urgently, backing away from the door. Let me in, Alex. The voice pressed again, now frantic. You don't understand. I'm trying to protect you. I shook my head, suddenly furious. Protect me from what? You're the one who's been lurking around. There was a pause, then a desperate knock. You'll regret it if you don't trust me. They're here. Something inside me snapped, a mixture of fear and anger. Get away from the door. I shouted, but my voice wavered. We need to find another way out. Just as I began to move towards the window, the lights flickered back on, bathing the room in light. The figure was gone, but the heavy unease remained, hovering in the air like a lingering smoke. Should we look? Mia asked, her eyes darting toward the door. No, I said, more forcefully this time. We stay put. We can't risk it. But even as I spoke, a cold dread filled me. I had no idea what had just happened or what his warning meant. My mind replayed the chilling words, a physical manifestation of fear creeping up my spine. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the direction of Jess's dorm room. A scream sliced through the air, and my blood ran cold. Mia, that came from Jess. Without thinking, I threw open the door and rushed into the hallway, adrenaline overpowering my fear. Alex! Wait! Mia shouted after me, but I was already running toward the sound. I had to know what was happening. I had to help her. As I raced down the corridor, the door to Jess's room stood ajar, cracked open unnaturally. Then everything went cold again because I could see someone inside. I took a breath, ready to confront whatever was waiting for us on the other side. This was getting darker, and I needed answers. I stepped cautiously toward Jess's door, heart racing. The air felt heavy again, and I could hear muffled cries mixed with frantic shuffling. Jess! I called out, my voice trembling as it echoed down the hall. Alex, please. Help. Her voice was weak and panicked. I felt a surge of desperation. I had to get in there. I shoved the door open fully and stepped inside. The scene before me froze my breath in my throat. Jess was backed against her bed, wide-eyed and terrified. But it wasn't just her fright that paralyzed me, it was the figure looming over her, the same shadowy figure I'd heard in our room. Get away from her! I shouted. The figure turned, but the light from the hallway filtered in, casting strange shadows across his face. He wore a mask, the kind that covered every inch except for his eyes, which were cold and calculating. Alex, don't! Jess cried, but I charged toward them, focusing on getting her to safety. The figure moved faster than I expected, darting to the side. I lunged, but he grabbed Jess by the arm, yanking her toward him. You shouldn't have come here. He hissed, the panic surged. Let her go. I shouted again, feeling rage and fear intertwine. It felt like the world had warped around us. I grabbed a nearby lamp and swung it at him, but he ducked away at the last moment. The lamp shattered against the wall in a spray of glass. Run, Jess! Now! I yelled, desperation coating my words. She bolted toward the door, and for a heartbeat, I thought my plan might work. But before she could make it out, the figure released her arm and lunged at me, tackling me to the ground. That I struggled, but he was stronger. "Do you really think you can escape?" he growled, pinning me down. His grip was like iron. Adrenaline surged through me. I couldn't let him overpower me. Then I heard a loud bang behind us, and both of us froze. From the door, Mia had rushed in, brandishing a fire extinguisher like a weapon. "Get away from him!" she screamed. The figure turned, momentarily distracted by her presence. I seized the opportunity and shoved him off me. He staggered back, letting go of Jess entirely, and I scrambled to my feet. Mia sprayed the fire extinguisher, a white cloud of foam enveloping the room. I ushered Jess toward the door, my heart pounding. "Go! Get outside!" I shouted as the figure tried to find his footing in the chaotic mist. They rushed past me, but I hesitated. The figure was still there, clawing his way through the foam. I couldn't leave him behind. "Mia, get Jess to safety!" I yelled. "I won't leave you!" she cried back, panic lacing her words. "We'll be fine. Just go." My voice was firm. It felt like a lifetime before she finally turned and disappeared into the hallway, dragging Jess with her. The figure finally broke free from the cloud, glaring at me with eyes filled with rage. "You don't know what you're getting into," he yelled, advancing toward me again. That's when I noticed something glinting on the floor. A small metal object, his knife. My heart dropped. "Stay back," I warned, backing toward the corner of the room. I had to think, to buy time until Mia could return. Too late for that. He snarled, lunging again. Then everything went dark. The power flickered and died, plunging me into darkness. I felt fear slam into me as I realized I was alone with him. I couldn't see him anymore. Panic bubbled up inside me as I searched for an exit, but suddenly there was a shrill alarm echoing through the hall. It pierced through the silence, and my focus snapped. "Mia!" I breathed. I had to find her. I stumbled through the darkness, my heart racing even faster. The alarm blared loudly in my ears, drowning out everything else. I called out, "Mia!" But the sound of my own voice felt swallowed by the chaos. The air was thick with foam, and I had to shuffle carefully to avoid slipping. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to steady myself. My eyes strained to find the figure lurking in the shadows, but all I could see was an endless black. Then, I heard a low growl coming from somewhere close. My blood ran cold. He was still there. A shiver ran down my spine as I forced myself to stay quiet, to listen. The growl morphed into a muffled laugh, and my stomach twisted. Was this some kind of sick game for him? Suddenly, I felt something brush against my leg. I snapped my foot back, kicking at whatever it was, panic overtaking me. "Get away!" I shouted, my voice barely cutting through the alarm. But nothing came in response, only the sound of my own breath coming out in quick bursts. That I needed to move, needed to get out of there. I took a step away from the wall, straining my ears. I could hear Jess and Mia's voices faintly in the hallway, but the sounds felt so far away. I took another step forward, trying to feel my way through the room. Then I heard a rustle. A figure emerged from the darkness, and I instinctively ducked. The masked man was closing in. "You think you can run?" he jeered, and I could almost feel his breath on my neck. In a split-second decision, I lunged toward where I thought the door was. My fingers grasped the handle, and I yanked it open, the squeak of the hinges merging with the incessant alarm. I darted into the hallway, almost colliding with Mia as she came rushing back in. "Alex!" she gasped, relief flooding her voice. "Mia, we have to go!" I shouted, grabbing her by the arm. Her eyes flashed with fear, and I pulled her down the corridor. Jess was already waiting for us, her face pale. "What the hell was that?" she panted, glancing back toward the doorway. I don't know, but he was here, I said, drawing them closer. We need to get outside and call for help. Just as we turned to run, a loud crash echoed behind us. I spun, half expecting to see the masked figure charging at us. Instead, I saw the heavy wooden door swing open, slamming against the wall. There was no one there, just the darkness spilling out. "Let us move," I urged, my heart pounding as I led them down the staircase. The alarm's wail became fainter as we descended, but the fear clung to me like a shroud. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As we reached the lobby, I wanted to breathe easy, but the sight that awaited us sent dread spiraling through my gut. A group of students clustered near the entrance, murmuring anxiously. One of them stepped forward, his face blank. "Did you see him?" he asked. "He was just here." That's when I realized. The figure wasn't just hunting us, he was hunting everyone. Panic surged again, but I forced myself to focus. I grabbed Mia's hand. "We have to find a place to hide. Now." We ran past the anxious group, ignoring their confused whispers. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the masked figure lurking just outside. My chest tightened at the thought. "Where do we go?" Mia asked, fear edging her voice. "Anywhere but here." I pulled her toward the nearest door on my right, leading us into the cafeteria. The vast room was mostly empty, the clatter of metal chairs echoing off the walls. Jess hesitated. "This isn't safe. It's better than being out there," I snapped. "We can hide in the back. Sit tight, get our bearings." We rushed toward a large storage area at the back, the door slightly ajar. I pushed it open, and we slipped inside. The air inside was cool, an almost comforting contrast to the chaos outside. I closed the door quietly and leaned against it, straining to hear anything out in the cafeteria. The alarm still blared in the distance, but the voices outside were muffled. "This is insane," Jess whispered, her eyes darting around. "We've got to call the police or something." "I doubt they'll get here fast enough," I replied, my heart still racing. "We don't even know who we're dealing with. He could be anyone." "You mean a student?" Mia's voice shook. "What if he's been here the whole time?" The thought chilled me. I took a deep breath, attempting to steady my frazzled nerves. We shouldn't jump to conclusions. Right now, we just need to stay quiet. We huddled together, backs pressed against a stack of crates. The tension in the air felt palpable. Time passed slowly, each minute crawling by. Then, from somewhere outside the storage area, I heard a sound beyond the alarm. A laugh, dark and mocking. I froze, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" I breathed, panic bubbling in my throat. Mia nodded, her face pale. "What if he's close?" "We can't stay here any longer," Jess said, her voice trembling. "We need to get out before he finds us." I reluctantly agreed. "Okay, but we go slow. We stick together." I opened the door a crack, peering out into the cafeteria. Everything looked still, too still. "I don't see anyone," I whispered, just as I stepped out. A shadow darted across my vision near the entrance. My heart plummeted. "We need to go now." We bolted out, but I lost my footing and stumbled, nearly crashing into a table. The sound rang like a bell in the eerie silence. I quickly got up, adrenaline surging, then I caught sight of something, a dark figure crouched by the entrance. My breath caught. "That's him," I said, panic rushing through me. "We're trapped." Mia flinched, her hand tightening on mine. "What do we do?" But before I could respond, the figure straightened. I couldn't see his face, but the smile that crept across his lips sent ice through my veins. "Found you," he said, his voice slicing through the silence. I turned to Jess and Mia, fear coursing through us all. In that moment, it dawned on me the chase wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Run! I shouted, tearing past the nearest exit, urgency pounding in my skull. As we dashed toward safety, I knew we had only just begun to scratch the surface of what we were up against. The night felt endless, a labyrinth of running and hiding. I could still hear the echoes of laughter, twisted and sinister, lingering like shadows in my mind. Jess and Mia sprinted behind me, our breaths mingling in frantic gasps, heartbeats synchronized with the fear weaving through the air. I pushed through the back exit of the cafeteria, my hands gripped tight around the metal handle, fear sliding into my gut. The outside world greeted us with a wave of crisp night air, but there was no relief in the darkness. I could still sense him not just behind me, but everywhere. It was suffocating. This way! I shouted, pulling them toward the nearest group of trees lining the perimeter of the campus. I hesitated for a second, unsure of what kind of twisted game he was playing, but I couldn't ignore the adrenaline coursing through me, urging me to move. Shadows danced between the trees as we ducked into their cover, my pulse racing. I turned to Jess and Mia, their faces pale, reflecting my own dread. "What do we do now?" Jess gasped, glancing every which way as if expecting the figure to emerge from the darkness. My mind scrambled for a plan, that we needed to find the main road where we could signal for help or flag down a passing car. "We stick together," I reminded them, shaking off the fear clinging to my skin. "We'll head to the road. Just keep moving." As we moved deeper among the trees, I caught the faintest sound, garbled whispers merging with the wind. My body tensed, instinct screaming that we were not alone. "Do you hear that?" I whispered, barely above a breath. Both girls nodded, eyes wide with panic. Suddenly, shadows flitted in the corner of my eyes, movement I couldn't entirely make sense of. "Run!" I yelled. We tore through the underbrush, bruising our arms against the branches, breath escaping in urgent bursts. Then I felt it. A presence behind us, not just in our minds but in the very air, cold and palpable. "Don't look back," I urged, pushing forward. But the sound of footsteps, heavy, relentless, echoed close behind us. We broke through the tree line just as the tracked ground opened up to the road ahead, illuminated by a distant streetlight. "Keep running," I shouted, even as dread clawed back my resolve. We reached the edge of the pavement, but my heart sank. Not a car in sight. A hollow emptiness surrounded us, adding weight to the quiet. I turned, and that's when I saw him standing at the tree line, his silhouette impossibly still, watching us with those dark, knowing eyes. "Alex!" Mia shouted, pointing in horror. I spun back to her, urgency twisting my gut. I had to protect them. "We can't just stand here." In that moment, I thought of our conversations in the library, of those word notes, of the lurking shadow over my life. "Jess! Mia! Look!" I twisted back toward the figure. "What do you want?" I yelled, forcing my voice to remain steady. My heart drummed loudly against my ribs, but I wasn't about to back down this time. That he smiled, the kind of smile that sent chills racing down my spine. "You don't understand," he called out, voice smooth but cold as ice. I could almost see the shadows weaving around him, warm fingers clawing at reality. "You can run, but you can't escape what you are." "What I am?" I shot back, anger bursting the bubbles of fear. "I don't even know who you are." "The Watchers know," he replied, almost softening at the words. It was a reminder that this was no ordinary game, and I could feel the intensity growing. Something was closing in on me, surrounding me like a thick fog. "And soon, you will learn too." Just then, a car's headlights appeared down the road, illuminating my temporary sanctuary, slicing through the suffocating darkness. I saw the driver's anxious expression. "Help!" I screamed, raising my arms. The car screeched to a halt, but I hesitated, unsure about turning my back on the figure. "Get in!" the woman shouted from the window, looking at us with wide eyes. Without thinking, I grabbed Jess and Mia's hands, and we sprinted toward the car, my heart pounding in rhythm with our frantic footsteps. But the laughter, the cruel, echoing laughter, it lingered. As we tumbled into the safety of the car, I couldn't shake the feeling of those eyes still watching us from the shadows. The driver peeled out, leaving the scene behind us. But even as we sped away, I felt the veil of danger still draped heavily over me. I could still hear the whispers curling, weaving endless uncertainty. "Did you see who it was?" Jess asked, her voice shaking as she turned to me. "I don't know," I replied, my heart still racing. I had no answers, just layers of fear waiting to unravel. It felt as if he had woven something deep into fate that I had yet to untangle. In the end, we made it away, but I still think about that figure lurking in the shadows, the whispers trailing behind me. Who was he really? What did he mean about the Watchers? I moved to another town soon after, but every time I see a shadow at the edge of my sight, my pulse quickens. I guess some questions remain unanswered. I still wonder if I'll ever truly be free.